Pascal's wager is simply a gamble on whether or not God exists.
Oh. Hello, Chris. Nice to meet you, too. So the best thing you've got going for this video is Pascal's wager. Okay, go ahead and tell people what Pascal's wager is.
Basically, we have to wager on either God exists or he doesn't exist.
That's pretty much it. Oh, and thank you, Billy.
If we wager that God does exist and we're wrong, we lose nothing. However, if we're right, we gain everything. Therefore, it makes more sense to wager that God does exist.
Problem is I'm going to assume that you're talking about the Christian God here, so that's what we're going to reference, judging from your shirt. Pro-life. Changed my mind. We'll save that for a future video. So if I were to come to you and say, okay, so Pascal's wager on Allah. You don't follow Allah. You don't believe Allah is real, but Pascal's wager on Allah. Same fucking thing. Pascal's wager is the weakest fucking argument you could have made a video about. I for the life of me, have no idea why you chose Pascal's wager. I can actually think of some decent arguments for Christianity or God that are a hell of a lot harder to debunk than Pascal's fucking wager.
First, let's consider the implications of each alternative. If God does not exist, then life is futile. Not only will our life end at the grave, but scientists also tell us that the universe will face a death of its own.
Yeah, ultimately I would say life is futile. When you die, you are dead. It ends at the grave. And chances are the universe will come to an end. That kind of depends. There's still debate. Everybody thinks that like the Big Bang is set in stone and all this, and the Big Crunch or the Big Freeze is guaranteed going to happen. Nothing's guaranteed. These are all just hypotheses that are out there. You know, Big Bang's got a lot of evidence for it, but it's not like this is a theory. You know what I mean? So I would say ultimately, yes, you are correct. Life is ultimately futile. There is nothing afterward. There is no heaven, nothing like that. And I personally believe, yes, the universe will probably come to an end one day. And there is absolutely nothing we can do about it, and absolutely nothing wrong with it. I don't need to believe in a God just for the comfort. You're basically saying believe in God for comfort, when reality doesn't give a shit about your comfort. The universe does not give a shit about your comfort.
If that's the case, what difference does it make if we live a life like Mother Teresa or a life like Hitler?
Okay, you could have chose someone better than Mother Teresa. She was a horrible fucking human being. Absolutely horrible. I'm guessing you just popped off Mother Teresa because the stories you've heard in church, but you've never actually researched her. I would actually kind of put her, not really on par with Hitler, but she's definitely up there. She was a wicked woman. Just horrible. But I get what you're saying nonetheless. It makes a difference because we live in a society. We want to further our species. You don't... This goes back to the moral argument. I have a hard time believing you'd be a mass murdering fuckhead if you didn't believe in God. If you did, you were an absolute asshole while you believed in God, and you would be an absolute asshole then. So the belief in God doesn't change who you are. It maybe prevents you from doing anything about it, but I doubt that. And okay, all-powerful God, all-knowing God, right? You would be a mass murdering fuckhead if it wasn't for God, but an all-knowing God would know truly what's in your heart and that you were an absolute mass murdering fuckhead. So how would that get you into heaven? Is God so stupid that he can be fooled like that? So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot with this analogy, as many people do with the whole morals from God thing. But yeah, you do it because you want a better society. You want to better this world for future generations, because we're still here right now, so I want to live as happily as fucking possible. So yeah, you do it for the ones you love. You do it for just overall peace, really. I mean, not really global peace, We're a long way from that shit. But hey, I blame religion for a lot of that. So fuck it.
The end result is the same for everyone, regardless of how we live or treat people. Sure, we might think that treating people decently might serve some noble purpose that is yet to be identified. But what purpose would that serve? To make life on this universe better while it lasts? What difference will that make? How can we live happily and consistently knowing that nothing we do in this life will ultimately make any difference in the end?
Well, what you're failing to realize is you keep on talking about, oh, after you're dead, after you're dead. What kind of selfish bullshit is that? We're still here right now. So, yeah, I want it to be as nice and peaceful as fucking possible while I'm here. I want it, if I had kids, I'd want it to be better for when they're alive and growing up. It's furthering the species. It's wanting to live in peace and harmony. That's the whole reason our species live in societies. And not just ours. I mean, come on, wild animals form communes and shit like that. You know what I mean? Almost said fucking tribes. They form packs and communities and shit like that. I mean, they don't go around fucking killing themselves either, because they realize there's safety in fucking numbers and you better learn to get along. You do it because we're here now. We're existing now. We are experiencing things now, and we want it the best experience possible. To look at it as, oh, fuck it, I'm going to be gone anyway, is a very selfish outlook. And one that, honestly, theists, especially Christians, are like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to heaven anyway. You know, that's just a morbid way to look at things. It's very selfish. It's very selfish. And I find that, honestly, non-believers tend to be better people anyway, because we see it as, this is our one shot to make things better. This is our one shot at life. So you better make the most of it, because there is nothing after. Whereas anybody who believes in an afterlife is like, oh, well, fuck this plane anyway. I'm going to paradise afterwards. So there'll be complete fuckheads here. You know, fuck up their bodies, fuck up everybody else's day, fuck everybody else, because I'm going to heaven anyway. So who gives a shit about this earth? That's just a really bad way to look at things.
If God does not exist, there is no life after death, and our existence is utterly meaningless. If God does exist...
Before you get into if God does exist, you can't say that it's meaningless. We find our own meaning. I find meaning in helping people. I find meaning in pointing out how stupid people are on the internet. You make your own meaning. Ultimately, you make your own meaning anyway. You're telling me you've never disagreed with anything your pastor has said or your church has said? You make your own meaning anyway. You make your own morals anyway. If you go to a church and the pastor says something you don't like, you find a different fucking church, even though it's the church that said it. So you make your own morals anyway. You make your own meaning in life. You're just giving credit to something that's not fucking there. I have the balls to say, hey, it's my meaning. I did this, and I take fucking credit for it.
Then life is actually meaningful. Biblical Christianity succeeds precisely where atheism fails.
I'm hoping you're going to give evidence of this and tell me how biblical Christianity is better than atheism.
On Christianity, God does exist and life does not end at the grave. We have the two conditions necessary for a meaningful, valuable, and purposeful life: God and immortality.
And how do you derive that is what matters? That those are the two things? Because I have meaning in my life. I have happy days and bad days just like everybody else, but overall I have a happy life. And I don't have a God nor an afterlife. I do my best to do things for other people and to help them along their way as well. And I don't need a God to do that. So I fail to see how Christianity has one-upped atheism in that regard. I don't see how those two things are necessary. I'm doubting you're going to elaborate on that, though.
Because of this, we can live happily and consistently.
What did I just say? I live happily. So do many other atheists out there. As I said earlier, a lot of times we're happier than y'all. We're more down to earth. Like, when you look at things and you're not weighed down by this religious nonsense, it's a very freeing thing. we tend to be happier. We tend to want to help people more because, as I said earlier, this is our one shot. Every one of us only gets one shot. I don't care if you believe in an afterlife and all that horse shit that you've been fed since you were a toddler. You still only get one fucking life. So, and let's say you believe in heaven, okay? You believe in heaven. You better damn well live your life as if you only have one shot. Because Pascal's wager, if you're fucking wrong, you were a dick all through life and you could have made the world such a better place. And you didn't because you figured, fuck it, I'm going to heaven.
Now, this doesn't show Christianity to be true, nor does it show atheism to be false.
Oh, you're one of those people who think atheism is a thing that can be true or false. I got it. So let me explain atheism for like the millionth time, because apparently you don't have a dictionary or can't go to dictionary.com. So atheism is just, I don't believe in your God until you give me enough evidence that I should. That's all it is. Atheism has no claims. So it can't be proven one way or another. There's nothing to prove. It's just, oh, there's a God. And I'm like, I don't believe it until you give me evidence of that. Show me that there's a fucking God and I will believe in God. You know what I mean? So atheism really can't be true or untrue. It's kind of your side. It's your side that has that. Yeah.
We have to look at the evidences for each to determine that. But what evidence is there for atheism?
As I just said, there's none, because we're not making a claim. We have to look at the evidences of one. Evidences in 2,000 years that y'all have failed to provide, which is why I do not believe them. Which is why you are a theist. You say, hey, believe in my deity as a theist, and I have no evidence for it. In 2,000 years, I haven't been able to provide evidence for it, 2,000 plus. Therefore, I am an A, meaning non-theist. Atheist.
The problem of evil, the obscurity of God in the world.
Those are two decent points. I've got better ones, but let's start there.
Rather than deny these two things, the Bible actually affirms them. Even Pascal touched on the obscurity of God when he said...
Before you get into what he said, we've already obliterated Pascal. No one gives a shit what Pascal said. It's a weak fucking proposition. I can say the same shit about Zeus or the flying spaghetti monster, Thor, Amun-Ra, any of the other thousands upon thousands of gods that have come and gone. You don't believe in any of them except your one. But Pascal's wager says if we put Pascal's wager on any of those other ones, you're in the same fucking boat I am. So, again, stop talking about Pascal.
God dwells in enough light so that those who want to find him will, and in enough obscurity so that those who don't want to find him won't.
Well, isn't that just convenient? Again, don't care what Pascal said. Really don't care what your Bible said, because I've read it, and I highly doubt you have. But I gotta give you props, at least you're not quoting it, because then I have to bust you out on that. So, obscure sayings, I don't give a shit. Those aren't convincing. Okay, you can quote everybody who's ever lived on this planet ever about the existence of a God until God comes to me, him or herself directly and says that shit. You are all human, just like me. What makes you think you have any more knowledge? Why are you so special that you have this knowledge that so many other people don't? As a Christian, you got about 5 billion people who don't agree with you. What makes you think you've got some kind of knowledge that they don't? We all have the same capabilities. We are all human. You are not special. You do not have any access to any information that any other human on earth does not have access to. So, fuck Pascal. Fuck everybody else with all their quotes. What is it relevant to if there's a God or not? Is Pascal God? Did I miss that part? Is Pascal God?
So what evidence is there for atheism? Even if the evidence for Christianity and atheism were equal, which I don't admit for a second.
Neither do I. I do not admit that Christianity or atheism, theism of any sort, any of the religions, and atheism are on the same footing. But as far as evidence goes, I would have to say they are on the same footing. There is no evidence for atheism because atheism is not a thing, and there also is no evidence for your Christian God. Zero. None. If there was any evidence for your God in the past 2,000, 2,500 years, there would be no atheists. But there is no evidence. So yeah, actually, yeah, they kind of are on the same fucking footing. There is no evidence for either one, which is why you have to resort to things like Pascal's wager. And let's say, okay, you know what? Let's say there is a God, okay? And Pascal was a fucking genius. So you're basically just doubling down. You can be like, oh, I don't believe there's a God, but just in case, I'm going to say there is. Like, that's going to fool God? How stupid is he? That's going to fool God and get you into heaven? You're doubling down like it's fucking blackjack and shit. Fuck it, just hedge my bets? That's going to fool your God? That's going to make your God happy? Seriously, you could not have picked a worse defense than Pascal's wager. You should remove this video, think it over, and come up with something better. Your God needs better representation. I say this all the time, and it rings true. Every time I come across one of y'all with your videos, every time at the end of it, I'm like, your God needs better representation. He is not very powerful if this is the best shit he can come up with.
But even if it were, a rational person ought to choose Christianity. It seems positively irrational to choose death, futility, and destruction to life, meaningfulness, and happiness.
Okay, let's talk about rational. The rational, natural world doesn't give a shit about your comforts. I said that earlier. So it's actually more rational to accept the fact that life may be futile, the universe may end, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. When you're dead, you're dead. That is more rational than I am afraid of the thought of nothing, of ending. So instead, I'm going to believe in something I have no evidence for whatsoever just because it comforts me at night. I would 100% say there's more rationale in just accepting reality than comfort. Fuck comfort. The universe doesn't care what makes you comfortable. The universe doesn't care what makes you happy. And the sooner people realize that, it's an absolutely freeing thing. Because as I said earlier, you tend to make the most of it when you know there's a limited time. You tend to squander it away when you think there's an unlimited amount of time. So yeah, rationale goes to atheism. Evidence, equal footing. So go ahead and pimp out the rest of your video. But I will see all you motherfuckers in the next one. Stay savage.
Like Pascal said, we have nothing to lose and everything to gain.